Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. 21 years ago, our country came under attack, and I'm going to play footage from 2001. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Beth. Well, what is that? Somebody hit the World Trade Center? Well,
The Trade Center.
World Trade Center.
That's it.
Yeah. This just in, we're looking at some breaking news very disturbing live shot here. That is the World Trade Center, and we just unconfirmed reports here in New York explosion.
As we come now, we have serious news of a major and very tragic for the United States. Incredible plane crash into the Hudson. I just heard a loud boom. You did? Was it a plane? That's what I was thinking. It was a terrorist attack.
Immediately, there's speculation or cause for concern. This is the World Trade Center that was the center of a terrorist bombing some years ago. So the questions have to be asked, was this purely an accident or could this have been an intentional act? But either way, extensive damage.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Looks like 6 South Floyd were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Wait, so hold on just a moment. We got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
Right, oh my God, another plane has just hit, it hit another building, flew right into the middle of it, explosion. Oh my God, it's right in the middle of the building.
If you read up from under your seat, open your book up to lesson 60 on page 153. At the count of 3, everyone should be on page 153.
Mom, another plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. Another plane hit a jet, a jumbo jet. I'm so scared. I'm leaving. No, don't make me. Bye. I love you. Megan. I'm Carol. I'm getting up. Megan, wait for me.
We do have some videotape
Oh.
of the second plane, and you can see it there.
Where? I didn't see it. Oh, whoa.
We're under attack.
And from our vantage point, yeah, clearly difficult to tell
We're under attack.
what type of plane that is, but it's a horrific scene. And
All right, we just been told also, Michael, sorry, the New York Stock Exchange is being evacuated, as is, I'm sure, much of Wall Street, but not all of it as much as possible. But the New York Stock Exchange has suspended trading for the moment.
war.
Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion, and right now we're looking at an aerial view of the Pentagon.
the Pentagon has been evacuated. The White House has been evacuated. Clearly, you're seeing now pictures from Washington, D.C. All
of the airports across the country have been shut down. All flights have been canceled for another 7 hours, which is about 5 o'clock Eastern time. And then we'll reignite there. We'll take a look what's going on after that. The probability of extension, as they call that, is high.
2-2-1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
It's coming down on me. Here it comes. I'm getting behind the car.
Anthony, you okay? Yeah.
I'll tell you that I can't see that second tower, but there was a cascade of sparks and fire, and now it looks almost like a mushroom cloud explosion, this huge billowing smoke in the second tower. This was the second of the two towers hit.
Now this is what it looked like moments ago. My God.
The remains of a airplane crashed over on Lambertsville Road, and probably had a terrorist bomb on board and blew up. I don't know anything more than that. That's what I heard on the scanner. I just saw the smoke come up, and the explosion shook the house clear over here, and we are, 15 miles from Lambertsville.
In Washington, there is a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been evacuated. And there, as you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord. There are no words. We have a report that a 747 is down in Pennsylvania, and that remains unconfirmed at this point, and so we will check on that.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Oh, mercy. What a day. September 11th. 21 years later. Of course, as you see, there's a lot unfolded since then. Try to give you all a better view than the TV screen. Thank you for the few that's joining me. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. God bless all of you. Happy Sunday to everybody here. Prayers for New York and the United States. It seemed unbelievable at the time, if you were up at that time. So I'm going to ask some of you, where were you? September 11th, 21 years ago. I had gotten up on that Tuesday, late morning. I think it was about 10:20, 10:25, and I turned on the TV, which I always did because I had kept the TV in my living room at the time. So I went in there, turned on the TV, something I always did in the mornings. And I turned on the TV and saw this chaos unfolding, or had unfolded. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm still sleeping. What am I looking at exactly? I was just stunned. So I said, well, let me go over to CNN. Hello, everybody in the chat. Let me go over to CNN because that's one of my great sources of information for anything that's transpiring in the United States. So I went over to CNN and got the full view, because naturally the buildings had already toppled by the time I had turned on the television set. It was hard to believe. It was hard to believe that the buildings both were down. And in my mind, I kept saying over and over, how did they fall? How did they fall? Okay, some planes went into the building, but how did they just fall down? So someone had explained to me the fuel from the planes naturally is what burned the steel and brought the structures down. I didn't even think about that at the time. And then, of course, 2 planes, 2 buildings in New York, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and then a vacant field in Pennsylvania. 4 planes total. You also saw on the bottom of the screen that they were diverting planes going to New York and D.C. to Canada, which I never knew that. This is my first time hearing of that. Everything was grounded at some point during the day, and naturally so. But what I want to focus on is how terrifying that day was for many Americans. And when you hear the girls, young lady who's filming this out her window, maybe she was home, didn't have to work that day, she had a bullseye view of the towers. What are the odds to have, get this moment in time captured looking out of your apartment window? So she's looking out of the window and she sees this structures, plane going inside. Hello, everybody in the chat. And you're trying to grapple that. And the thing that struck me the most is when she realized what was going on. She was like, I can't believe this. You hear her hollering, I got to get out of here. And then you hear another girl saying, well, don't leave me. Honey, we ain't got this kind of time. I don't know what's going on. It looks like a terrorist attack. You also hear other people who are filming saying it's a terrorist attack. No. Why would she stay? Why would she want to stay in that building with a bullseye view of two buildings coming down? She doesn't know what's going on. Many people didn't know what was going on. So why stand there? I wouldn't want to stand there either. Even though she was blocks away from that view, she was ready to hightail it out of there. And that was the smart thing to do because all transportation was grounded. And New York is a small island. For those who've never been to New York, it seems big. You know, it was given that name, the Big Apple. Yeah, for the structures, but not for the square miles. It's small. It's small. People are toppled on top of each other in high rises, skyboxes, you know, 7 flat buildings. You understand what I'm saying? Walk-ups. That's all New York is made of. So I'm like her, I got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on with these 2 buildings, but I ain't sticking around to find out. And I don't blame her. And that always resonated with me. The people who were standing around watching, looking at this structure burning with a plane inside of it. Think about that now. You no longer see an airplane in either building. Just debris falling out, paperwork, steel, metal coming out, glass coming out, falling. Everybody's trying to get a bullseye view. Reporters are trying to report. They had no idea that what they're about to witness will go down in history. You're about to watch 2 tall buildings fall into dust. Into dust. And that's the part that was the most baffling. Not just a plane hit the building, number 2 hit a building, but to know, or knew rather, once you witness it, this thing is now dust. The buildings are dust. That was the most unimaginable thing, besides the attack itself, was watching it crumble down. You can't make yourself believe it. You see the people running. They're running. They're running for blocks. You saw the news reporter talking. He didn't know that building was about to fall, but he got somewhere, did he not? The cameraman running. That cameraman was running a while. That's all that smoke, metal, glass coming down and going for blocks. People looking like walking dust bunnies who got caught up in that rapture. It is the most unbelievable thing ever happened to a city and cities, New York City and other cities, towns. It's even hard to put in words now talking about it because I watched it play over and over. And everything from 9/11 affected us thereafter. Our country going to war with other countries, trying to take down entities that they believe were behind this. Stricter guidelines for travel. That's why we have stricter guidelines to this day, 2022, as far as flying on an airplane. They want to check everything. You have to go through a machine so it can make sure you don't have anything under your garments. You got to take your shoes off now, put in a little plastic container, run on the runner. Same thing with government buildings. They've got the walk through, spin around, make sure you don't have any weapons on you. That day changed America. Globally changed. Financially changed us. That one day in history changed America and abroad. And it changed how we navigate, how we do business, what you're allowed to do and not do. So are we safe now? Do you feel we are safer since 9/11? I had the great privilege to travel to New York a few months later to see Ground Zero. I was invited to go to New York And I was able to see what unfolded there. It was into the new year of 2002. It was January, February when I was able to go to New York to see that massive hole, basically a square box. Driving by, naturally, you're on the top part of the road because you're gonna have to look down into that hole. That's how deep those towers sat down in there, because you gotta remember they had lower levels with shopping, parking, and all of that. So driving by ground zero in the car, I got to look out of the window at that massive hole. It is the most, I can't even explain to you what it looked like, because my head was trying to grapple what was once there in the hole. 2 buildings in that massive hole. Shopping, stores, underground parking, all that was down there, besides the building that sat atop the parking garage and the stores. And now I'm looking down into an empty hole. And when I mean down, I mean it's down deep. I don't know how many feet that was from road level, but let's just say if you were to jump over the rail from the sidewalk, you probably wouldn't be getting up walking. That's how deep it was. And it was hard to understand that what I'm looking at now, months later, once stood 2 towering buildings in New York City, and they are no longer there. And people perished. Firefighters perished. And I think back to, as I said, that girl screaming, looking out of the window, talking to her mother, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here. Some girl in the background saying, don't leave me. First thing I'm thinking, hey, you know how the queen is, I got to go, I can't wait on nobody, I got to go. And I think back to commentary from 9/11. When one building had already been hit, okay? The people in the other building, if I'm not mistaken, it was either the same building or the other building. Somebody was telling the people that were in one of the towers to go back to work. Don't leave the building. Come again? Why in the hell would I want to stay in a building and the other building's been hit? This is actual conversation that I heard many years ago, when people started testifying to their personal experiences and what was going on that fateful morning. Someone was directing people in the other building, don't leave, if I'm not mistaken. So think about this. The tower that was hit second was the first one to fall. Put it on paper. Some people probably don't remember that. The second tower that was hit was the first one to fall. So imagine you're in tower number 2 and it got hit. It's the second one to get hit. And some stupid person's telling you to stay in that building, number 2, because number 1 got hit. No, don't go out there. Don't leave your desk. Don't leave your job. Don't leave. Why am I going to stay in this building and building number 1 has just been crashed by an airliner? And whether they actually knew what hit the building or not, it's principle. I'm not getting ready to go stay in this building. And I wouldn't have advised anybody to stay in building number 1. Why would you advise somebody to stay? Because you're thinking what? Well, it's so many feet away, it ain't going to affect us over here. But sadly, they were affected because another aircraft hit building number 2. So imagine staying in building number 2, not knowing that you're about to get hit as well. All because you're listening to some ill advice from somebody that didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Because they thought they were telling you to do the right thing by staying in building number 2. Because, hey, it's not affecting us over here. But in the end, it did affect building number 2. It did affect building number 2 because little did the people knew that building number 2 was going to be under attack as well. And that always sits in my mind. People staying around listening to something somebody else had said. Then we got footage of firefighters going in, trying to go up. You're talking about so many floors up. You would be exhausted before you even got to the fire. And as I said, building number 2 was the first building to fall. So naturally, you're running up trying to save people. You don't know that this building is about to collapse 1 and 2. Because as I said, who would think all of this steel is going to come toppling down? Nobody would think that. It was hard to even believe it when you saw it. And what are the odds of visually being able to see both buildings fall from different people's cameras, filming, news agents being able to film this tragic, because this was a tragedy. It's the most baffling thing that's happened in modern day, watching buildings fall, because you can't grapple buildings that massive falling down. Just want to say thank you to all the firefighters, policemen, regular civilians, the government, for doing the best they could on that day, because really that's all you could do. It's the best, because nobody knew what to think. And I think back also to President George Bush's facial expression when that guy walked over to him when he was in that schoolroom. The look on George Bush's face is priceless. He was stunned. And lips moving around, kind of like, how in the world did this come to be? And how am I going to get out this classroom? But he held his composure while being in that schoolroom. But I'm sure he had 1,000 crazy thoughts running through his head when he got the news that those buildings had fallen. Whatever that guy said, it was quick and to the point. We are probably one of the most hated countries in the world. Some say we're meddlers, we're greedy. We have a godlike complex, our government. You're entitled to your opinion. And in certain instances, yes, we do. Yes, we do. You're entitled to think we traded over to a foreign countries to steal oil, whatever. But in the end, those people had no business over here. And we had to find them. All of them, if we could. There's no way we could turn the stone over and do nothing. And it's sad that people were walking around with this sick mentality that America is such a hateful place, greedy place, meddlesome place that you would kill innocent civilians on part of what you think of our national government. See, that's the one thing that foreigners don't seem to understand about America and other countries as well. Most of us have little say into what goes on in this country, from city, town, all the way up to the White House. We rarely have a say in rules, regulations, laws. So you were exacting your hatred towards people who hadn't done anything. You're mad at the government. You're mad at the president. But you hurt innocent people who hadn't done anything to your country. Most of us, we just don't have a say in our government. And that's what foreigners need to understand. You're angry at what you're hearing. You're angry at the rhetoric that your country is spewing. But in the end, you don't have any jurisdiction over what your country does, just like we don't. We're entitled to vote. If by law we're allowed to vote, we're allowed to have free speech. We are allowed to rally. We're allowed to protest. We're allowed to attempt to put laws on the books. But in the end, that's all we can do, is attempt to make the world a better place. But I ask all of you in the chat and viewing audience, do you think we are in a better place now in this country? Do you feel safe living here in America? Do you fear that there will be another attack such as that? Probably not, because the airplanes, the airport staff, they're very adamant to make sure nothing gets on an airplane. We have crazy people boarding, but not crazy people / weapons. Amen. Amen. This was just a quick overview to show you content I found in the queue today pertaining to the timeline of 9/11, 21 years ago. It's even hard to even believe that 21 years has passed because it doesn't seem that long ago on that beautiful day, because that was a beautiful Tuesday. I can tell you that was a beautiful day. And when I got out on that day, I was looking at the people running out of TVA building, which dwells downtown Knoxville. And the people were scurrying out of the building when I got up. This was probably after 11 a.m. when I got out. The people were scurrying around because TVA is a main staple here in Tennessee. And naturally, this building, which is affiliated with the government, they didn't know who else was going to try to fly a plane into another building. So they let their employees go for the day. And naturally, everything changed when those planes went into all those buildings. We had to pay higher gas. People were lined up at the gas stations days after in droves trying to get petrol for their car. Lines were lined up outside of the parking lot of gas stations because people didn't know what to expect. People were in fear, as they should have been, because you don't know the mindset of someone evil. What else are they going to do? What else are they going to try? And yes, we have had more foreign people try to exact harm on us as civilians here in the United States. People going into buildings, churches, mosques, and things, shooting up people, raging jihad, Allah, so on and so forth. But in the end, that's not godly like. And no God, if you believe in the God I believe in, would want you to strap a bomb around your waist, jump behind a truck or car and mow people down, storm the pilot door to jump in the seat and fly a plane into a damn building. That's not godly like. And God didn't tell you to do it. He didn't instruct you to do it. And he's not favoring you doing that. That's your own selfish mind telling you to do that, to kill innocent people. Many people suffered from 9/11. As you will see in the YouTube queue, you will see videos pertaining to people who have illnesses that came from 9/11, people who have gotten panic attacks, suicide, a lot of mental issues. Remember one black lady, she kept the dress that she wore, suit she wore from work on that fateful morning. And Oprah Winfrey had her on her show asking her, why'd you keep it? And I guess she said she kept it, I guess, to show that she's still alive. But it was eerie and creepy to know that someone would keep a dust-ridden dress, outfit that was immersed in debris from those buildings. But she kept it. Very creepy. And the woman said she has never been right since running down the street trying to get away from the debris falling. And that was dangerous watching that too, just trying to get a bullseye view of tower number 1, because like I said, no one was assuming that the tower was going to fall when the first one was hit. You sure as hell didn't think the second one was going to fall. But as I said, the second one was the first building to fall. Got hit right in the belly of the building. So naturally, it couldn't hold with all that fuel inside of the building. A memorable day indeed. It's a day that many people will never forget. And I'm sure the people of New York will never forget it because they lived there. And they had to try to pick up the pieces thereafter. The cleanup was massive because you're talking about streets filled with debris, glass, metal, paperwork from the buildings. You also saw people jumping out because they were trapped. And that was a very horrific scene, watching a man jump out of a building from a top floor. And you're trying to grapple what he was thinking at that time. The overwhelming feeling of, I'm not going to make it in here, so I'd rather just go ahead and jump out of the window. That's deep. To feel trapped in a structure and you can't get out. And there were people maneuvering in those trapped buildings, stuck between floors, trying to get over and under to get to the next landing because some landings were blocked from where the plane struck the buildings. But I can't imagine anybody sitting in either building, be it building 1 or building 2, I can't see. Hearing the crash in building 1 and staying in there, thinking what exactly? It wasn't going to fall? And then building number 2 gets hit and you stay in that building. Nobody could have told me to stay in either building. It wouldn't have mattered if I knew what exactly what was happening. It would not have mattered to me. I would have done my best to get out as soon as I heard the crash. Because anytime a whole building, such as those, they're massive and they were tall. If you're in that building and it's shaking, it doesn't matter what's going on with the building. It's time to come out of there. And nobody could have kept me there. No boss, no supervisor, no employee, nobody. I would have ran out of there like hell. And if that means I'm on the top floor and I'm scared to take the elevator, well, buddy, we getting ready to coast on down these stairs the best we can. But I would not have stayed in either building. And I thought about that at the time. How many people actually stayed in building 1 and building 2 on ill advice from a supervisor or boss or coworker that said, just stay here, stay put? Because you hear commentary from people in the streets and the young lady who's looking out her window. They had the fortitude to say, hey, we're under attack. Don't you find that interesting? Because once you see building number 2 being hit, there was no other assertion to come up with, but we are under attack. Whom it is, I don't know, but somebody's angry with us. I got to get out of here. What a sad day. Very sad, tragic day. Pentagon was also hit, and another plane went down Pennsylvania in a field because some very brave people said, we're going to take over this plane by all means necessary. We're not going to let these villains crash this into some other structure here in America. And I also heard that there were other sites that these foreigners were wanting to hit. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but imagine had the airports chose not to ground any more airplanes. We possibly could have had more fatalities because we don't know how many people were working together to take down America. And it's sad and pathetic to think a person would risk his or her own life in the name of religion to kill innocent people. And that you thought that what you were doing on that fateful day, 21 years ago, that you were taking down America. Yes, you took down structures. You killed innocent people on those planes and on the ground, but you didn't stop us from treading forward. You didn't stop us. We are one of the greatest nations. And we are flawed indeed. Very flawed. And our country has done some very devious things since the beginning of time when the country was discovered. And I think we all know this. Some may even say it was payback because we've been so evil in our maneuvering and mistreating people, the Indian people, the Black people. But in the end, killing people is not the answer. It's never the answer. And I was glad to hear of us leaving from abroad, our military, because 20 years of being overseas was too long. An everlasting war. And it was hard to even grapple that we were still overseas last spring. 20 years abroad, when these nations have gotten worse. So it shows you that they didn't care about America's presence in Iraq, Afghanistan, because of the mentality that they've been taught to hate. And they have been taught to hate their own and hate people that look like them. So why would they care about America? They don't. And it's not to say that all foreigners are filled with hate and hate this country. But they don't have much freedom there. That's why they want out. They want to go somewhere else to live because they don't have any freedom. And that's a sad way to live. It's not to have the freedom to roam, to live how you want to live, dress how you want to dress, talk how you want to talk, have a voice. You're slain or stoned to death because you had a voice. You chose to speak out, speak against something you didn't like, you don't like, you don't agree with. Barbaric. And many countries are still barbaric. And that's the thing, we can't make people believe and think how we think they should, like we think here on the Western side of the world. It's not our place. And we have intervened in many situations, and we've been asked to intervene. But I do believe we need to worry about us, because right now our country is suffering so in many cities with crime and famine. There are also people here that are starving, not eating well, don't have enough food, don't have good jobs, don't have decent housing, don't have education, don't have money to go to school, better themselves, get a trade. And as I said, a lot of crime here stateside. I think some of that militia should have been put on our city streets because of the crime, to show you can't go out here and just do what you want to do. And some may think that would be uncivilized, but what's uncivilized is watching people die every day in your own country in a free world. People just running amok, killing and slaying people for no reason. Maybe we need to be put on curfew because we don't know how to act. We're uncivilized. We have become barbaric. We're becoming like the places that we criticize and loathe, taking over, dominating the streets with venom. It has to stop because God's been too good to most of us. He's been good to us. whether we want to accept it or not, whether you believe in God or not. He favored you when he woke you up this morning. He favored you when you were able to get in your car, able to eat, able to maneuver, go to school, get education, meet and greet and date, have children, get married. He doesn't have to favor any of us. America, how far we have come. But yet we have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. And naturally, you can't change the minds of some people, ignorant people, because we also have ignorant people that live here, stateside, that are just as dangerous as those foreigners that despise us. But we cannot tolerate hatred of this land because we all have to live here. And if you don't like being here, you don't like what's going on in this nation, whether you are a foreigner or you were born here, possibly you need to find somewhere else to go. Because some of us want to live. We want to have a decent life. We want to be at peace. We want to try to get along with our neighbors. And if you aren't on that page, you don't deserve to be here. And it's best you find you somewhere else to live. 21 years later, we are still here, still standing tall amongst the madness. Amen. I want to thank all of you for joining me. God bless all of you. Prayers for our great nation, New York City, our other cities and towns. Prayers for our police, our firefighters, our military, those who have served, those who are no longer with us, our veterans. Thank you for your service. And I'm also going to thank our president. Thank you, Mr. Biden. And all those helping and aiding to make this country a better place, the world a better place. And even to our civilians, thank you. For those of you who get up and you do something worthy out there in the world, and you try to make this country a better place. Whatever your job is, whatever you're fighting for, thank you. If you'd like to donate to this great network, Everyday Shenanigans, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. You all have a wonderful week. Hope you had a prosperous weekend and have a prosperous week on your journey. As most of you know, the Queen of England has passed away and her son, Charles, has been handed the baton to carry it forward. I'm going to do a live about that later and ask you all how you feel about this recent event of the Queen passing away and Mr. Charles being in succession of the crown. And we will chop it up and go from there. But thank you all so much for your time. Just a few people viewing. God bless all of you. If you see something, say something. Mind the children. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop your comments below. Please check out my community board for breaking news and updates to stories that I've brought to you. Leave your comments there. I also may do a poll or two today, so feel free to take a part of the polls. And I do have other polls that I've posted to my community board. Thank you all so much. You all have a wonderful week. This is Everyday Shenanigans.